7 ways to torture a narcissist. Let's get one thing straight. This isn't about revenge. It's about liberation. It's about reclaiming your fire, your soul, your power. When you've been gaslit, manipulated, emotionally drained by a narcissist, you've got every right to rise like a phoenix from the ashes. And here's the irony: you don't have to lift a finger to hurt them because your healing is their hell. Go silent, starve. Their ego. Silence is not absence. Silence is presence without permission. When you go silent with a narcissist, you're not vanishing, you're cutting the oxygen line to their ego. You are starving their addiction to attention. You're reclaiming the space where your soul once bent for their validation. The narcissist survives off reactions. Good or bad, it doesn't matter. A compliment feeds them, an argument fuels them. Your pain gives them pleasure. Every time you respond, they feel powerful. Every time you defend yourself, they win. But when you go silent, you remove the mirror. They have no reflection, and in their twisted world, no reflection means no identity. You see, silence is not weakness. It's war without weapons. It's you stepping out of their game and refusing to be their pawn. It's you saying, I owe you nothing, not my voice, not my thoughts, not my time. Silence strips them of the illusion that they still have control. And that illusion is their lifeline. Most people underestimate the power of emotional disengagement. They think it's passive, but disengagement is a superpower. It's emotional mastery. It means you're no longer triggered. It means they've lost access to the part of you they fed on. You're no longer their emotional supplier. At first, they'll provoke you. They'll poke, prod, and try to ignite you. They'll say outrageous things, do petty things, drag your name through the mud just to get a flicker of the old you to show up. But you're not playing anymore. You're building peace, and peace is deaf to drama. They will accuse you of being cold, heartless, or fake, but that's just projection. What they really mean is, I'm losing control over you. What they're really saying is, your silence is louder than my manipulation. And that makes their ego bleed. Going silent doesn't mean disappearing from life. It means becoming unavailable to toxicity. It means filtering your access. It means understanding your energy is sacred and not everyone deserves it, especially not those who weaponize it against you. And as your silence stretches, something profound begins to happen. You start hearing your own voice again. The inner voice that was buried under their noise. The voice that whispers truth, strength, healing. The voice that says, this is who I really am. The narcissist will spiral in that silence. They'll obsess, they'll panic, they'll scramble to replace you. But nothing works, because what they're really chasing is the control they once had over you. And that power, you took it back when you shut the door and didn't explain why. People often fear silence because they mistake it for loneliness. But silence is solitude with intention. It's choosing clarity over confusion. It's walking away without the need for validation. It's growing without needing to show it. Let the narcissist scream into the void. Let them post, gossip, and twist stories. That's all they have left: noise. But you've upgraded to stillness. You're building a life where your peace speaks louder than their chaos ever could. This isn't ghosting. This is growth. This is spiritual immunity. This is breaking the cycle with dignity. You don't need to yell to make a statement. Sometimes the loudest thing you can say is nothing. And make no mistake, this kind of silence hurts them. Not because you're punishing them, but because they can no longer reach you. And that is torture. Because in their world, control is love. But in your world, love is now freedom. So don't feel guilty for going silent. Feel powerful, because in your silence, you're saying the one thing they fear the most: you no longer matter to me. Refuse to defend yourself. Let them drown in their lies. There is a savage power in refusing to explain yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. Narcissists lie not just to others, but to themselves. Their entire identity is a theater of illusions, and when you stop defending yourself, you rip away their stage. You force them to perform for an empty audience. That's the beginning of their unraveling. The narcissist thrives on pulling you into the courtroom of their mind. Every accusation they throw is bait. Every manipulation is designed to make you plead your case. I didn't mean that. That's not what happened. You're twisting my words. But here's the truth. They don't care. They're not looking for clarity. They're looking for control. When you stop defending yourself, you stop feeding their courtroom drama. You stop participating in their twisted cycle of guilt, shame, and explanation. You become an enigma, and that eats away at their false sense of superiority. Narcissists want to be judge, jury, and executioner in your life. But your refusal to stand trial removes their power. They want you on the defensive, because as long as you're defending, you're distracted. You're doubting yourself. You're questioning your own reality. But when you let them talk and you don't answer back, when you let the lies fly and meet them with silence, you destroy the illusion that they can manipulate the truth. They will accuse you of being dishonest, of hiding something, of playing games. But that's because they don't understand integrity, they only understand control. They assume everyone is as manipulative as they are. So your silence, your calm, your refusal to flinch, confuses the hell out of them. You see, narcissists believe they can rewrite your story, but when you no longer hand them the pen, they're left with their own delusions. Let them say what they want. Let them spin tales. Let them try to rally others against you, because the truth doesn't need defending. The truth outlasts the lie. And here's the secret. The people who matter, the people with real discernment, they can feel the difference. They sense the quiet strength in your refusal to fight back. They know something deeper is at play, while the narcissist gets louder, more erratic, more dramatic. You grow more grounded, and in time, people notice. They always do. Every time you resist the urge to defend yourself, you reclaim a piece of your power, because defense implies doubt. But you don't need to convince anyone of your worth, your truth, or your reality. You simply live it, and that living truth silences the lies more effectively than any argument ever could. This doesn't mean you don't speak truth when it matters. It means you speak it selectively, wisely, and only when it's for your healing, not for their validation. Because narcissists don't listen to understand, they listen to weaponize. So why hand them ammunition? When they can't get you to defend yourself, they panic. They start talking to themselves. They try to get others to join the witch hunt. But even then, your calm becomes contagious. You become a mirror that reflects their madness, and they can't bear the reflection. Every lie they tell digs them deeper into their own illusion. And every moment you remain still, composed, unmoved, you show them they have no grip on your soul anymore. That realization doesn't just sting. It shatters. People will say, "Don't you want to set the record straight?" But here's the truth. Setting the record straight is for those who live in truth. Narcissists don't. They live in narrative, and trying to edit their script is a waste of your sacred energy. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to prove you're not the villain in their story. You've got better things to do, like heal, like grow, like build a life so full of peace and power that their lies become irrelevant background noise. And as they rant, as they rave, as they choke on their own deception, you rise. Unapologetically, authentically, completely untouchable. That's not just strength. That's a silent form of torture they'll never understand and never recover from. Take back the spotlight become impossible to ignore without them. Narcissists believe they are the sun, and everyone else is just a planet spinning around them. They demand the spotlight. They expect admiration. They assume your success, your glow, your energy comes from them. But the moment you pull that light back and start shining on your own terms, that moment breaks them. When you take back the spotlight, you're not being arrogant. You're reclaiming what was always yours. You're refusing to dim for their comfort. You're refusing to play small just to avoid conflict. And that sudden surge in your energy, that bold rise, it terrifies them. Because it proves you never needed them to begin with. They can't handle being ignored. They can't handle watching you succeed without them clapping from the sidelines. Their worst nightmare isn't that you hate them. It's that you forget them, that you move on, glow up, and live loud all without their shadow looming over you. So how do you take back the spotlight? You start by investing in yourself again. You rebuild your confidence from the ground up. You take care of your body, your mind, your spirit. You dive into the passions you abandoned when you were too busy managing their emotions. You become visible again to yourself. The narcissist expects you to be broken. They expect you to be stuck. They expect you to play the victim. But when you rise with joy, purpose, and presence, you violate their prediction. You escape their script, and that shakes their identity, because if you're thriving without them, maybe they weren't as special as they believed. Let the world see who you are without their distortion. Share your wins, speak your truth. Walk into rooms like you belong there, because you do, and every step you take in the direction of your destiny is a reminder to them that you're not under their spell anymore. This isn't about revenge. It's about reclamation. It's about walking tall in your truth, without the need to rub it in anyone's face. Your glow is not meant to blind others, but it will definitely expose those who try to dim it. That's what burns them the most. Narcissists want to believe you'll never find happiness after them, that your world revolves around the fantasy they sold you. But when you start shining from within without seeking their approval, you prove that your power was never tied to their presence. And guess what? They'll notice. They may never say it. They may never admit it. But they will see your evolution, and it will haunt them. They'll stalk your success from the sidelines, pretending not to care while secretly losing sleep over the fact that you are the show now. You'll become magnetic not because you're trying to prove anything, but because truth has a frequency that can't be faked. You're aligned, you're grounded, you're finally you, and that authenticity is more radiant than anything they ever pretended to be. They'll try to discredit your rise. They'll gossip. They'll project. They'll mock you in secret. But their bitterness only exposes their own insecurity, because deep down, they know what you're becoming is exactly what they pretended to be. Taking back the spotlight means falling in love with your life again. It means no longer waiting for permission to feel joy. It means being unapologetically visible and trusting that those who can't handle your light were never meant to be in your orbit. Every time you smile from a place of real peace, every time you choose joy over vengeance, every time you grow louder in your purpose, you're reminding the narcissist that their influence is dead. You're not just surviving anymore. You're thriving, flourishing, expanding, and when your energy starts blessing others, when your influence begins to shift rooms, when your name starts rising in places they'll never reach, they'll feel it. That spotlight you reclaimed, it's not just healing you, it's exposing them, so go ahead. Step fully into the center of your story. You were never meant to be a background character in your own life. Shine like you were born to, and let your brilliance torture every lie they ever told about you. Don't chase closure, let them live with unfinished business. There's a unique kind of torment that narcissists can't escape, the torment of not having the final word. They live for control, and they crave closure, but only on their terms. They want to walk away from the story as the hero or the victim, never the villain. But when you refuse to give them closure, when you walk away with your power still in your hands, you leave them screaming into silence that never answers back. You've got to understand this: narcissists don't seek closure to heal. They seek it to manipulate. They want that one last conversation where they twist the narrative, that final meeting where they can inject more guilt, more confusion, more self-doubt into your spirit. They want the stage, not the truth. But here's where the power flips. When you don't give them that moment, when you walk away without explaining, justifying, or rehashing the pain, you lock them in the prison of their own incompletion. And narcissists, they can't stand being left with loose ends. They crave resolution because it gives them a sense of superiority. If they can convince you to sit down and talk it out, They believe they still own a piece of your mind. But you're done playing that game. Your healing isn't found in their apology. Your peace isn't born in their understanding. It lives in your decision to move forward without them. That's where the torture begins. Because narcissists need that control like oxygen, and when you disappear, when you cut the cord, when you walk out with your head high and your words unspoken, you deny them their favorite drug, relevance. You become the cliffhanger in a story they can't rewrite. They'll try to bait you back in, we need to talk. You owe me a conversation. Don't you care about closure? But your silence speaks louder than anything you could ever say. And that silence, it's deafening to a narcissist. It echoes louder than rage because it tells them they no longer matter to you. They'll play the victim. They'll tell others how cold you became, how cruel you were for walking away without warning. But don't fall for the narrative. You don't owe explanations to those who made a game out of your emotions. You owe peace to yourself. You see, closure is a gift that healthy people give each other. But narcissists abuse that gift, they weaponize it. So when you deny them that last dance, you're not being petty, you're being powerful. You're breaking a cycle they thought would last forever. It's not about ghosting. It's about choosing yourself. It's about realizing that closure doesn't come from a conversation, it comes from a decision. A decision to stop letting someone who never truly saw you define your future. You're not being immature. You're not being heartless. You're being wise because you know the truth. The narcissist's version of closure is just another manipulation. Another round of lies dressed up as sincerity, and you're done being played. They will obsess over your silence. They will stalk your energy. They will search for cracks in your foundation, hoping for a sign that you still care. But when you give them nothing, you trap them in the very emotional chaos they once tried to drown you in. They might pretend they've moved on. They might flaunt new relationships or post fake happiness. But beneath that mask is a mind stuck in loops, desperate to know why you never came back. That's the punishment, not your hatred, but your absence. Let them live with the weight of unfinished business. Let them wonder what you would have said. Let them choke on the words they never got to use against you. Because sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is the one you never say. You didn't walk away because you were weak. You walked away because you finally realized you were never going to find your healing in their chaos. And that's what tortures them. They didn't break you. They didn't finish the game. And now they're stuck with a version of the story they can't rewrite. And that, my friend, is closure enough. Rebuild your life without broadcasting the blueprint. The narcissist expects your collapse. They feed off your destruction. After they discard you, or you walk away from their psychological warfare, they sit back like a villain in a movie waiting for the chaos to consume you. They believe they've left you in ruin. But when you begin to rebuild your life in silence, without sending them a broadcast invitation to your breakthrough, you start a fire they can't put out. You don't need to make an announcement when you're rising. You don't need to throw your progress in their face. The most powerful kind of evolution is the kind that happens behind closed doors, where your glow-up isn't a performance, it's a reality, and the narcissist. They'll feel that shift. They'll sense it like a storm coming, but they won't be able to trace where it's coming from or how to stop it. When you stop explaining, stop justifying, stop narrating your every move for the narcissist's attention, you disconnect them from the control panel. You starve them of updates, and without information, narcissists lose power. Your silence becomes your fortress. They want to know who you're dating, what you're doing, whether you're sad, whether you're thriving. But when you say nothing, when your life becomes a mystery, that mystery becomes their torment. It forces them to create stories, assumptions, theories, and none of them bring them peace. You don't need revenge. You don't need to post inspirational quotes or dramatic captions about healing. You just need to do the work, grow quietly, focus deeply, build relentlessly. And every time they stalk your social media looking for weakness, all they'll find is stillness. Because the new you doesn't need their attention to survive. And here's what's so powerful. Narcissists believe that silence means submission. But your silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. It's spiritual insulation. You're not hiding. You're evolving. You're reconstructing the parts of you they tried to fracture, and you're doing it out of reach. They live for feedback. They thrive on knowing they still influence your thoughts. But when you rebuild in silence, you take away their supply. You remove yourself from their ecosystem. And without your reactions, your emotions, your updates, they fade into irrelevance. You're not ignoring them out of bitterness. You're outgrowing them with focus. You're planting seeds they'll never get to see bloom. And that kind of progress, that kind of invisible evolution, it cuts deeper than any insult or retaliation ever could. Because you're not reacting anymore, you're creating. You're building a life on foundations they'll never understand. Peace, authenticity, purpose. These are foreign languages to a narcissist. And watching you speak fluently in all three, without inviting them to listen, is a torment they never expected. And here's the twist. They might try to bait you. They'll send messages, create drama, use mutual friends. Try to lure you into showing your hand, but you don't owe them anything. Not your status, not your clarity, not your vulnerability. Your life is no longer for their consumption. When you rebuild your identity in private, you rob them of the illusion that they still hold real estate in your mind. That's the true punishment, not rage, not revenge, just reconstruction without inclusion. This is where your legacy begins, not in what you say, but in who you become. And when the world finally sees the version of you that was forged in silence, it won't need to be explained. Your growth will be undeniable, your peace will be unmistakable, and the narcissist, they'll be standing in the shadows, watching your life take off like a rocket they never believed would launch, wondering how they lost access to the very masterpiece they tried to destroy. That's the torture, and you didn't have to lift a single finger to deliver it. Just walk away and rise. Rise in peace, become what they can never be. You want to know the ultimate way to torture a narcissist? Become everything they pretended to be, but without the lies, without the manipulation, without the illusion. When you rise in peace, in authenticity, in wholeness, you become their worst nightmare, the living proof that you never needed them to become powerful. Narcissists wear masks. They spend their lives trying to convince people they're strong, enlightened, important. But it's a performance. It's always been a performance, because deep down they're hollow. Their confidence is borrowed. Their self-worth is stitched together from other people's admiration. They're actors in a role they can't keep playing forever, but you're becoming real. You rise by doing the work. The quiet, gritty, internal work they run from. You rise by facing the pain they tried to bury in you, by confronting the trauma, by acknowledging the broken pieces and still deciding, day after day, to build something sacred from the ashes. That's power they'll never touch. See, narcissists try to destroy you so they don't have to face their own brokenness. But when you rebuild, not just with success or money or aesthetics, but with peace, joy, clarity, and purpose, you put a mirror in front of their soul. And they can't handle the reflection. You become everything they feared you'd be, whole without them, glowing without their validation, powerful without playing dirty. You are proof that true strength doesn't manipulate, it transforms. It doesn't conquer others, it conquers self. And narcissists can't do that. They refuse to look inward, so they'll always remain weak behind the armor of ego. And here's the twist that burns them most. When you rise in peace, you're not even thinking about them anymore. You're not plotting revenge. You're not rehearsing speeches. You're not checking if they're watching. You're too focused on becoming the version of yourself that you were always meant to be. That's how you win. That's how you torture them by not even trying, because narcissists don't just want attention. They want to be the center of your evolution. They want to believe they still influence your path. But when you rise and their name isn't in your story anymore, they fade into the irrelevance they fear the most. Your peace becomes their punishment. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending yourself. You stop proving anything, and in that sacred silence you cultivate power. The kind of power that doesn't need applause, that doesn't need to be seen, it's felt, it's undeniable. Your joy will confuse them. Your calm will irritate them. Your grace will haunt them, because they'll know deep down you beat them. Not by fighting, but by healing, by forgiving yourself, by elevating. You didn't sink to their level. You transcended it. You climbed higher where their games don't even make sense anymore. They tried to define you by your wounds, but you redefined yourself through your recovery. They wanted you bitter, broken, vengeful. But you chose healing. You chose peace. And that decision destroyed the script they wrote for your downfall. You are now the person they only pretended to be. Confident, grounded, spiritually alive. That's why they can't stand it. That's why your glow terrifies them, because it's real. And realness is something they've never had the courage to develop. So rise, not with noise, but with purpose. Rise, not to prove them wrong, but to prove to yourself that you were always more than their abuse tried to shrink. Rise in your divine power, in your higher self, in your quiet revolution. Because that rise, that sacred, unstoppable rise, that's the kind of torture no narcissist can recover from. They tried to break you, but you became the storm, let's be clear. Narcissists don't walk into your life to love you. They walk in to dominate you, to manipulate your light for their own reflection, to squeeze your soul until you forget who you are. But guess what? You survived. And not only did you survive, you learned how to turn your survival into strategy. You learned that silence is power, that boundaries are not cruelty, they are clarity. You discovered the strength in walking away without the need for a final word. You saw that becoming whole again doesn't require vengeance, it requires focus. And now everything they used to weaken you has become your weapon, not for revenge, but for rebirth. They wanted you to stay trapped in confusion. You chose clarity. They wanted you to fight in the mud. You built mountains instead. They wanted to be your God, but you remembered who your real source is. And that remembrance became the fire that torched every lie they ever spoke over your life. So now you know the truth. The real way to torture a narcissist isn't screaming or chasing or begging or proving. No, the real way to devastate a narcissist is to evolve past them, to stop dancing with their demons. To reclaim every inch of your power they tried to steal and then do something miraculous with it. You take your pain and you turn it into purpose. You take your scars and you wear them like armor. You rise with dignity, you live with peace, and you love again, but this time with wisdom, with standards, with strength. You build a life so full of joy, depth, and alignment that the narcissist becomes a footnote in a story they once thought they could author. This isn't about them anymore. This is about you, your healing, your breakthrough, your comeback, and if they ever catch a glimpse of the person you've become, it won't be because you needed them to see. It'll be because your light became too bright to ignore. And by then, they'll realize the cruelest truth of all. They didn't destroy you. They activated you, and what rose from the ashes can never be caged again.